Hi, friends. Welcome to Beautifully Bookish Bethany. Today we have a live stream where I'm going to be sharing my top 17 romance books that I read in 2022. Not all of these were published in 2022. Some of them were, a lot of them were, but not all of them. These are my favorites of the ones that I read, and I'm going to be counting down the list. So look forward to that. And if you caught my last live stream where I was like having issues with my throat. I think it's because I forgot to take my allergy medication. So we should be good today, hopefully. Anyway, hi, how are you? Hope everybody's doing well. I see Sophie in the comments. Hi, Sophie. I don't know how many people are available at Wednesday at 3 o'clock, but this is when we're doing this because I want to get more of this content out to you. And in case you're wondering what other end of year videos you can still expect from me, I have filmed a video talking about my DNFs for the year, which I think is always an interesting conversation. I still have my best fantasy coming. I have my overall best books of the year coming, and then my stats video, of course. And I think if I can make it work, I might do one on like what I spent in 2022 and kind of goals for spending in 2023. So those are kind of the planned end of year content things that are still coming. But today we're going to talk about romance, and I do have a slideshow for you because I think the visuals, especially doing this as a live stream, do help. Since I don't own all of them physically, this seems to be the best way to do it, and people seem to like it. So hi, Bronwyn, how are you? So the way that this is going to work is I will talk about the book, and then I will do comments, look at the comments, and chat a little bit. So for anybody who is watching this on replay, if you're not interested in the chatty part of the video and you just want to hear me talk about the book specifically, you can just watch the beginning of each book and then click through to the next one. So heads up for replay watchers. Hi, small channel. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. But first, before we do it, I did say I had 17, but unfortunately, we are still in a strike from the HarperCollins Union, which I really thought would be over by now, but it is not. Let's hope that this changes soon. So in support of the HarperCollins Union, I am not going to be reviewing any HarperCollins titles. Two of my favorite romances that I read in 2022 were HarperCollins titles. They are Shipwrecked by Olivia Dade and The Lady's Guide to Celestial Mechanics by Olivia Waite. Both Olivias. That's funny. I hadn't noticed that. Anyway, one good thing though is that we got updated guidance from the union that anything that is under Harlequin does not fall under the union umbrella. So I am able to talk to you about all of my Harlequin and related reads, which is exciting. But unfortunately, these two, I'll have to wait till the strike is over, and I really hope it ends soon because it's like super frustrating, not just for me, but also, for the workers who've been on strike for 2 months. So go support the HarperCollins Union. Yeah, like they need to get their stuff together, and like their demands are very reasonable. With that said, we're going to count down my top 15 books and a lot of books. Yes. So for reference, romance is among my top two most read genres. Fantasy and romance are my two most read genres. And in 2023, I think I read like 395 books, or 2022, sorry. Not in 2023. In 2022, I read about 395 books, and a large chunk of those were fantasy and romance. And so you're going to see that I'm going to have more favorites in those two genres than in other genres because I have more things I've read that I am picking from that I loved and want to talk about. So, hi, Kirsten. Yes, yay, romance. I love it. There were some really, really good ones this year. So, yeah. All right. Beginning with number 15, we have a YA romance. I don't often enjoy YA romances, but this is an exception. And I will say this is older YA, like new adult-ish YA, where the characters are like 18, 19. So it feels a little bit more mature, but Never Ever Getting Back Together by Sophie Gonzalez. And when I say mature, I don't necessarily mean steamy, because it's not that, but like the characters and the relationships too. This is a great book if you like things like The Bachelor or Love is Blind. So if you like high drama dating reality shows, which is not everybody's vibe, but if that is your thing, this is really fun. If you've ever watched something like The Bachelor and wondered, wouldn't it be a great show if two of the contestants got together instead and this was a sapphic romance, then this is the book for you because that is exactly what happens. The premise of the reality TV show is that this guy brings back a bunch of his exes to have a second chance. One of the exes comes back because she wants revenge because he cheated on her. And while she's there, she and another one of his exes, who is also bisexual, fall for each other instead of for him, who's kind of a jerk. So I loved this. I thought it was funny. It was very fun. People who don't like reality dating shows are not going to enjoy this because it has a lot of that like drama to it. But if you like that, highly recommend. It was a blast. Okay, now I'm going to look at comments. Hi, Pat. Welcome. Hi, Vixen of Fiction. Nia. Love fantasy and romance. Me too. Yeah, they're good. Hoping to find something you haven't read yet to add to your TBR. I hope you find something. I guess one thing that I should say about romance, and I think this is true of all genres, but I think romance in particular is so highly specific to people's taste, and that can be really individual. And so a lot of the books that I love might be books that other people don't love, and and vice versa. So I do have some more obscure books on my favorites list, and like your mileage on all of these may vary, but hopefully this will at least introduce you to some good options. Hey, Simone. I love cheesy reality shows. Okay, so like check this book out then, because if you like cheesy reality shows with like dating and social drama, oh, it's great. It's really fun. And it's a sapphic romance. All right, counting down to number 14 is Two Wrongs Make a Right by Chloe Leese. I loved this. This is Chloe Leese's traditional debut. I had never read from her before, but I know she was really popular as an indie romance author. I'm so excited for the rest of the series because these are all retellings of Shakespeare plays. Listen, like a well done Shakespeare retelling, I am there for it, and this is retelling what is perhaps my favorite or among my favorite Shakespeare plays, Much Ado About Nothing. And it's really fun and really charming, and I thought genuinely romantic. I enjoy romances a lot, but there are not that many where I'm like, "Wow, this is genuinely just romantic and swoon-worthy," and there were some scenes in this that I've definitely felt that way about. One thing that is also cool about this is it has disability and neurodiverse representation, a lot of which is own voices, and that is something that I think Chloe Leese is known for. And the setup is a lot of fun. The two characters are like don't like each other. Um and their friends try to trick them into dating. And so in revenge, they decide, "Oh, well, we'll like pretend we're dating to get back at them." But pretty quickly they realize, "Oh, maybe I do kind of like you, and maybe that's better than getting revenge." And I like that it moved away from that premise pretty quickly and was more about developing their relationship. I loved this. I thought it was really good, and I definitely want to read more from her. So, would recommend. Comments. Hi, Tara. Been wanting to read Never Ever Getting Back Together. I thought it was very good. Kirsten, I hope to see you reading the Bergman brothers soon. I would like to. You know what? I need to remember to add them to kind of my wish list or things on my radar because I would like to read more from Chloe Leese, and I've heard great things about her indie Bergman brothers series. Yeah, I loved this, so I can see why she's so popular. Marina, I fully agree. It's so lovely to find one that is really romantic like that. Yes, you don't always get that. I think, yeah, I was just really rooting for the couple. I liked both of the characters, and I'm excited. One of my anticipated romances for this fall is the second book in the series. I think there's going to be three, because there's three sisters, and the second one is going to be retelling Taming of the Shrew, and the third one I think is going to be Romeo and Juliet. So I'm very excited for all of those. All right. Number 13 is Summoning Up Love by Sanithia Williams. If you've been around my channel for a while, you know that I am a big fan of Sanithia Williams. I think she is one of those really underrated, amazing romance authors. She writes only Black love romance, but she is traditionally published through Harlequin, and she just writes great romances and great characters. And this one is really fun. It's the first in a series following three brothers who are ghost hunters, and they are developing a TV show with their ghost hunting. And then each book in the series is following them finding love. And this one follows the oldest brother and the woman he falls for, who is initially a skeptic and doesn't think that ghosts are real. I really loved it. One thing that I think is really impressive about what she is able to do, because these are not very long books, they're like 200 pages, but the amount of character development that she is able to do, where you really see not only the romance develop, but also the characters go on this journey of growth, personal growth, is amazing. And I love her books. Her books are incredible. Anyway, so I would definitely recommend this. I've read two of the books in the series so far and really enjoyed both of them, but this was definitely one of my favorites of the year. So yeah, more people. I push people to read Cynthia Williams a lot. I feel like she commonly seems to show up on my favorite romances of the year list, and a lot of people have tried her because of me. And so far, everybody seems to like it. So go read her. She's great. Hi, Night Owl Reader. Okay, I don't read romance a whole lot, but occasionally I do. Fair enough. Maybe you'll find something that piques your interest here. All right. Um, let's move on to number 12. And this is one that I think not everybody liked as much as I did. I think it's a particular vibe and also maybe wasn't giving everybody what they were hoping for from it, but I loved it. This is Wishful Thinking by Celestine Martin, and it is a cozy small town romance with witchy vibes to it. I think there are people who wanted more witchiness or more magic than what this gave. I didn't mind. This was just like really sweet and cute and cozy, and I like that kind of slice of life thing. So for people who like that, who enjoy like cozy slice of life type stories, I think this was a really cute one. And I want to say it's been a minute since I read it, so maybe I should like double check what I'm about to say before I say it. Give me a second. Because I'm like, I don't want to get this wrong. Oh no. Great. And apparently I also did not put my phone into do not disturb mode, so let's also do that. Really good planning for being on a live stream. Yep. Okay. Sorry about that. Oh my god. Okay. Anyway, so this is interesting because there's like a witch and a merman who is sometimes a merman and sometimes not, and they were like they knew each other in childhood but didn't really like each other. I don't know. It's really cute. I really liked this one quite a lot. So, cozy, fun, low-key witchy vibes, like a soft, sweet merman love interest. I think it's definitely worth reading. So, um, Bree, who used to have you, oh yeah, I love Bree. Bree likes that romance. Okay, cool. I made this might have been about the Cynthia Williams one. Oh, tagged me in a book tag. Thank you. You know what? I did see that. I'm so behind on catching up on tags at the moment, but I appreciate that. It is a really cute cover. Tara liked Wishful Thinking. It was cozy and fun. Agreed. Yeah, I like the pun title as well. I think it's cute. Food. Yeah, it does have food in it as well. Marina, how did I read this and fully forgot he was a merman? That's it was a big plot point. Like there was a lot of intimacy in him like letting her see his tail and see him transformed. Like that was like a big trust moment in their relationship. I liked it. I thought it was really cute. All right. Moving on. Number 11 is a favorite from another really underhyped author. who I enjoy, Susanna Craig. And this is another one I feel like I'm like, y'all, come on, like get on her books. I will say I don't think that these covers really give a good sense of what the series is about, but the whole series is fantastic. Every Rogue Has His Charm is, I think, the last book in the Love and Let Spy series, and all of the books have been pretty good, to be honest. But they all follow women who somehow become involved with men from this spy network. And, this is great for people who don't like super alpha heroes, who like strong, smart heroines and like interesting characters and good romance. Like they're great. And this one this one is interesting because it actually has two romances in the book, and I was pretty equally invested in both of them. One of them was a second chance romance, and the other one was more of like a workplace spy network romance that had been building up for quite a while. And it's got this really nice epilogue that sort of like revisits and wraps up the relationships from all the other books in the series. I thought it was an excellent series ender. I think the whole thing is really good. So, yeah. Um, yes, big deal too. I think this might be about the merman thing. Liked the family dynamics too of Wishful Thinking. Yeah, I agree. The family dynamics were good. When you said he was a merman, I immediately looked at his legs on the cover. Do the legs transform? They do when he's in the water. They magically transform. So yes. Yep. But yeah, every rogue has his charm. This was great, and the whole series is really good. I don't know that the covers are really giving the sense that these are like spy books, but they are, and they have like mystery plots. Anyway, they're great. I really like them a lot. All right. Number 10 is probably the least fully romance book on this list, but I'm still putting it here because it's close enough. This is Snowden for Christmas by Sarah Morgan. Again, if you've been around a while, you know I love Sarah Morgan, and I always buy her holiday books. These lean much more women's fiction than romance, but they do always have romantic subplots to them. I I think like usually when I see less positive reviews, it's people going in who were expecting like a traditional romance and we're like, what is all of this family stuff? And I'm like, yeah, but that's just what she does. So the marketing might be part of the thing, but I just like I love them. They're so good. I love the way she does character work. I always feel like the characters feel really real and are dealing with real issues. She does really great interpersonal dynamics within families and also within romances. So this one is primarily set in the Scottish Highlands during the winter, and it's got multiple perspectives. Um, but one of the central kind of romance that's pitched on the back of the book, which I thought was kind of funny, follows this woman who is a marketer for a company who's trying to help save the company. And this guy who runs another company, he's having a family Christmas. She shows up to give him a business proposal, and because of like a series of mishaps, is mistaken for being his girlfriend when she's not. And I don't know, it's funny. But I really enjoyed this a lot. If you haven't tried Sarah Morgan, I do recommend her. I think she writes great cozy romances that are touching and have a lot of family stuff and like working through issues together, and they're great. So that's my number 10. The font is fun for the previous book. Yes. That's true. It is fun. And I will say like people use fonts like this sometimes for thrillers, but I don't know. I'm not sure it's quite giving the right vibe for what the book is. All right. Number 9, I finally tried a Christina C. Jones book this year, which was very exciting. I know Ashley at Bookish Realm is a huge fan of her books, and I finally read Getting Schooled, and I loved it. It was so good. She is an indie romance author who writes Black love romance, and this was just great. It was really like swoon worthy and sexy, and I thought it was fantastic. This is about a guy who is going back to school when he's a little bit older. He's a non-traditional student, and a woman who is working as an assistant, a graduate assistant to her mom, who is a professor. And so the two of them kind of like butt heads, but then like develop a romance. But like because she's not technically like over him, like I was fine with like the power dynamics element of it, but it has some of that academic romance thing. And then what ends up being kind of fun in the background is that their parents end up getting together too. And so that's not like the main focus of the book, but it's kind of cute. So I liked this a lot. I thought it was fantastic, and I definitely need to read more Christina C. Jones. I thought it was really good. I'm sorry, maybe this is a spicy opinion, but the cover for Snowden for Christmas is kind of boring looking. I mean, yeah, fair enough. It's very like typical holiday look, which I think is fine because I think it's it's giving the, like, cozy holiday vibes, which is sort of what the book is. Her co the holiday book covers vary in how good I think they are, but I always buy them regardless of the cover because they always deliver, and I like them, so Marina says, "Yes, love Christina C. Jones. Oh my god, so excited." Yeah, I loved this. This was my first time trying her, and it was really good. Hi, Fallon the Reader. I've had this on my TBR for so long, I need to move it up. Yes, definitely would recommend. It was very, very good. And yeah, I like the academic romance thing. I thought it was done quite well. And I can be picky about romances in academia, but I thought this was a really good version of it. All right. Number 8. Okay, before I move on to this, hold up. Try to Teach Your Student Romance by Alexandria House and didn't like the power dynamics. Yeah, yeah. I've had mixed experiences with Alexandria House, like, sometimes I like what she's doing but yes. But I think Christina C. Jones got the power dynamics right in that one. I would agree with that statement. Um, and Katrina Jackson, yes, I actually did read a yes, Katrina Jackson also has some academic romance, that's great. I did read one of hers this year too. It didn't make it on this list, but I did like it, so, yep. All right. Number 8 is Just Like This by Cole McCade. This is a male-male romance following two faculty members at an all-boys boarding school who are kind of opposites attract, and they're working together to try to help a mutual student that they're concerned about. So I liked that the conflict, at least a lot, well, like there was a mix, but a lot of the conflict in the romance was external, was about them kind of like trying to help this student, although some of it was like them working through their own issues as well. And the one of the guys is an art teacher, and he's very kind of quirky and bohemian and whatever. And then the other guy is the sports coach or football coach or whatever, and kind of big, gruff, whatever. I listen, like, I really loved this a lot. I thought it was beautiful. I teared up at it. I will say the writing is poetic and flowery, which may or may not work for you. Some people feel like it's too much and they don't like that style of writing. I loved it. I thought it was lovely. I loved the characters. I liked the setting. I think this is also kind of a cool way to get that like boarding school romance, but in a different way that works for adults, where it's like the faculty of the boarding school instead of the students. So I liked that element to it. I definitely would read more from Cole McCade as well. And and I guess one thing too is that like I'm always a fan of reading queer romances from queer authors, and so that is something that you will definitely get here. There's a lot of diversity in it. One of the characters, and this is something that I haven't seen a lot of other people talk about in reviews of it, but I think it's kind of interesting, is that one of the characters also is has indigenous heritage, but was adopted by a white family and is trying to figure out that identity and like reconnect with it. And yeah, so there's just like a lot of good stuff in here. I was a fan, would recommend. Um, and yes, Cole McCade is also indigenous. They have a lot of like various racial identities, but one of them is indigenous. So it is coming from that experience, which I think is cool. So Night Owl Reader says, I like low steam and non-sexually explicit romance where romance isn't even the center focus. Well, you might try Sarah Morgan. I mean, there's usually like one, maybe two somewhat explicit scenes in her books, but that's not really the focus of it. And you could probably skip over that if you wanted to. Um, so yeah, she might be somebody to try. Simone also loves Cole McCade. Kirsten, I've been wanting to read Cole McCade, heard only great things. Yeah, I was a big fan of this. I thought it was great. I want to read more. I really liked When Dimple Met Rishi, Chef's Kiss by TJ Alexandra, etc. Okay, cool. Yeah. Also the first, well, I mean, again, it depends on if you like the sort of reality TV drama element of it, but my first one that I talked about, Never Ever Getting Back Together, is not steamy at all and has a lot of other things going on. So I don't know if you like reality television stuff, but if you do, that's a good one. All right. Moving on, number 7. I loved this, and it's funny because I had a patron who was recently like, "This was so disappointing, I didn't like it." I'm like, "It was one of my favorite romance." It's okay. This is what I mean. Romances are very individual, but I loved this. The Perks of Loving a Wallflower by Erica Ridley. I will say, while this cover is beautiful, it in no way depicts what the characters actually look like or how they're described in the book. Which I think is a shame because feels like kind of a missed opportunity. We have this curvy blonde bombshell blue stocking heroine, and then a uh, kind of mask leaning, probably non binary love interest. And it's really fun. It's got like secret identities, and I just like I've been really enjoying this series. I think they're all really good, and I loved this. I loved this romance between these two women. They both use she her pronouns because of like the time period, but I would say that the love interest like reads as at least like gender fluid, but yeah, I was a fan of this. I thought it was great. It made me really happy. I thought it was delightful. So, your mileage may vary, but I enjoyed it. And also the banter really worked for me. I thought that their banter between each other was funny, and I loved the family dynamics too because the one of the characters is from this large found family that they were all kind of adopted and now have a spy network where they try to do justice things. I don't know. I really liked it a lot. Melanie, the Julia Quinn endorsement scares you. I hated the Bridgerton series, but I do like historical and sapphic. Um, yeah, this is definitely not like Bridgerton, other than the fact that it's historical and on the lighter end. Also, one thing that not everybody knows, Erica Ridley is a black bisexual woman herself. So, like, and one thing that's kind of cool is she's now getting to write some. So, like, larger cast of characters in the series includes people of color, and the most recent book in the series has 2 black characters on the front, which I think is cool. So, I don't know. I really liked it a lot, so I would recommend it. Um, Tara, because it's curvy and non-binary and it's historical, traditionally published, most don't do covers with what the characters look like. I mean, yes. I'm just bummed because I would love to see a cover where uh, it looked like. So thank you. I might check out the author you mentioned. I have not delved into romance as much as I always love reading in fantasy, mystery, thriller, or horror. Fair enough. I mean, it's, I think, a journey sometimes to figure out what works for you in romance and what doesn't. And I think that can be very personal. People can have really different taste in romance. Number 6 was The Holiday Trap by Rowan Parrish. And this was, oh, it was so good. This was so delightful. This was kind of a play on the holiday, but make it queer. That was like the original conception of this book. But then it also did a lot of other things in terms of dealing with some more serious issues and having these really developed character arcs. So we have a woman who lives in like the rural Northeast and who's like a lesbian, and a gay man who lives in New Orleans, and they swap homes for the holidays and both find love. And so it's got a sapphic romance and a gay romance, and it's also got them dealing with more serious issues like trauma and difficult family relationships and stuff like that. So there are some content warnings, which you can find on my Goodreads review if you need those. But I really, really loved this. I also will say, because sometimes if you have two side by side romances, you might like one more than the other or not be interested in one. I really loved both of them. And I've now read two books from Rowan Parrish and loved both. So I clearly need to read more because I feel like their stuff definitely works for me. I was a fan. Um, Books, Coffee, and Passion says, "Oh, I really want to read this one." Yeah, give it a try. I was a fan. Tara said, "I only liked one couple and I liked the actual communication." Yes. Okay. So fair enough. You may, like again, your mileage is going to vary. You might not be into both couples. I loved both couples, but I also really think it does a great job of prioritizing open communication between the couples. So, there are difficult things that they're working through, but they're actually communicating for the most part with each other. I thought it was good. I need to read more Rowan Parrish. Really loved Better Than People. Their writing is so lovely. I agree. The writing is really lovely. After this, I had picked up one more, The Lights on Knockbridge Lane, and it was so charming. So yeah, I am a fan for sure. Number 5. This book deserves all of the love and attention in the world. A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall is this just like beautiful, slow burn, um, childhood friends to lovers romance with a trans woman character. And like, oh my gosh, this one I think made me cry. Like, I just love this book so much. It was so beautiful and just so thoughtfully handled. So the basic premise is that there's these two characters who were best friends growing up, and it's like, what is okay. Yeah, so sorry, I'm like seeing the comments. I'll look at the comments after I talk about this. So there were two best friends growing up, and then the trans character was injured and thought to have died in battle during a war. And so she transitioned at that point and is now back living as a woman. And so it takes a while before she reveals her identity, which I think totally makes sense, especially given the time period that they're living in. But this was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. And there are a couple of sex scenes in the book, but I thought they were handled just with so much care. Um, yeah, I thought this was such an amazing book. Really, really loved it. Sophie also loved this book. It's so good. It's so good. Question, going back several books, is Just Like This steamy and sexually explicit? Yes, it definitely is. Sophie said, I didn't like Hall's historical romance that came out earlier in the year, so I was nervous about this one and then it blew me away. Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. Alexis Hall, I think, writes like varies a lot in what types of books he writes and the tones of the books he writes, so I can completely understand why some might work for you better than others. I've had the same experience. Like, I've really loved some of his books, and then others I'm like, oh, it was all right. um but yeah, this one I thought was amazing. Tara doesn't like the cover. Okay, fair enough. Marina says, my only issue with A Lady for a Duke was how long she let him think his old friend was actually dead. I wish she had come clean sooner, although I understand why. Yeah, I mean, I get that. Like, part of me wanted that, but at the same time, I kind of feel um like I feel like safety, personal safety is a more important concern, especially given the time period. So to me, it made a lot of sense. So I'm kind of okay with it. Melanie, I binged so many Alexis Hall romances this year. Lady for a Duke was amazing. Yeah, how refreshing not to have to justify the presence of queerness in a romance. 100%. They had transformation surgery. That was not a thing that was available at the time, but there were a lot of trans people who lived trans lives throughout history. And so I guess that's one thing that I appreciate about this too, is that it is giving representation to people who, because people are starting to talk more about history that was ignored or not talked about, where there is a long history of people living, like trans people living their lives. Um, before surgical things were an option. So, yeah. Um, okay. And also, like, surgery isn't required to be trans. I will just say that's, like, yeah. Number 4, A Scoundrel of Her Own by Stacey Reed. Oh, like, I forgot to move this so you can actually see the author name. Sorry about that. This is the okay, so this is the for this top 4, all of these were books that got 6 stars for me, which in my personal rating scale is what I give to a favorite of the year. And I had 4 romances that made my favorites of the year list. So this was one of them. And I love Stacey Reed. Stacey Reed is also a great option if you were looking for Black authors writing Regency romance. I haven't seen her write characters of color, although now that more of those are getting published, I would love it if we saw some of that from her in the future, and maybe we will. But I do think that even though she's writing white characters, you can you can tell that a lot of the undercurrents of themes that she's exploring have a lot to do with like inequality or justice issues. And this is the second year in a row that one of her books has been on my favorites list. I really liked this a lot. And this one is kind of interesting because it follows a couple who met when they were kids. The girl is this heiress who comes from like a really wealthy background, and she was saved as a child by this boy who came from a really poor family, and they had this like intense connection. They were like 12 or something. And so now they're adults, and she is secretly going into the underworld or whatever, like at night, like disguising herself because she's trying to track down some like secrets about maybe her parentage and stuff like that. And he has like worked really hard to make a lot of money and is like the king of the underworld now, and because he wanted to be deserving of her, and they like reconnect. And I thought it was great, really liked it. So yeah. um yeah, that was really good. Love the cover, so pretty. Yeah, it's a pretty cover. Tara wasn't what I meant. Sorry if it came off having to have something to be something, not just not sure. Fair enough. Yeah, like I mean, some of this is just like education, and I think the more that you hear from people with those identities, you learn more. And yeah, no, I mean it's a fair question. So, A Scoundrel of Her Own sounds like fun. It is. Yeah, I really liked this one. I think Stacey Reed writes great historical romances. Number 3 is a fantasy romance, and, this could have gone on fantasy, but I put it here because it's really a romance, and the romance was what worked for me. That's what I loved about this book, less than the fantasy part of it. So, A Taste of Gold and Iron by Alexandra Rowland. Sorry, hold on a second. Can you see my comment? No. I don't have the actual YouTube open, and sometimes depending on words that are used, it'll automatically hold things for review. So it's possible that one of the words was held for review. So, but yeah, I don't see it. Sorry. Um, this book was great. Yeah, A Taste of Golden Iron by Alexandra Rowland is a super, super slow burn fantasy romance between a prince and his bodyguard. And oh my God, I loved it so much. It was so swoon worthy. It's very slow burn. Very slow burn. So some people, it was too slow burn and they wanted more intensity or fast pacedness. I didn't mind. I loved it. Um, the other thing about this too is that like the fantasy world building piece of it, if you're going to this looking for something with a lot of deep fantasy world building or this really impressive twisty plot, like you're not going to get it. There is a plot and there is world building, but a lot of it just exists to facilitate the drama that we need to make the romance eventually happen. Again, I was so there for the romance. I did not care and was not bothered by that, but your mileage on that may vary. I've seen some people who didn't like it, but I really loved it. Also, I thought this had really great mental health representation. The prince struggles with panic attacks and like anxiety and stuff, so it has a lot of that in it. And one other thing too is I thought this did a pretty good job of managing the power dynamics. There is a world in which it could have been really off, but because of the details of how things function in the world as the romance eventually came into being, I felt okay about the power dynamics of them being together. So I loved this. It was definitely one of my favorites that I read this year. So, um, yeah, let's look at comments. Sophie says this book was great. It set me on a fantasy romance kick. I love that. Tara, I want to read A Taste of Golden Iron. Yay. Kirsten loved the cover. Simone, I totally want to read that because I love fantasy romance. Yeah, if you love fantasy romance, it's worth a read, especially if you like um if you like a slow burn. It's very slow burn, but I thought it was just beautiful. And yeah, the cover is gorgeous. Night Owl Reader, I'm still not seeing your comment, unfortunately. I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't know. Melanie, A Taste of Golden Iron is on the same spectrum as Winter's Orbit for me. The fantasy and romance didn't gel for me. Fair enough. And Winter's Orbit was also one of my favorites. But again, like what people want from that can really vary. So yes, slow burn and opposites attract. It is definitely that. I loved it. It was good. Yeah, I would read more of these. Okay. Then number 2 is another sapphic romance, Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. This is another one that people have had mixed reactions to, but I loved it. It has a prickly, kind of unlikable heroine and a single mom who's like managing that, and like I really loved it. It does have a lot of other family drama, and I think some people don't like how long it is and how much other plot there is to it, but I thought it was fantastic. Oh, wait, what sorry, was Night Owl Reader wanted to know if the Just Like Us book was explicit. Um, let's see. Sorry, I'm like just like I feel like honestly a lot of these probably are just like this. I think I answered that earlier that yes it is. Um, yeah, I answered that one earlier. But yeah, it is. Honestly, most of these have steamy scenes in them. Like, so yeah. Uh, Loved this one. I loved this too. I thought it was so good. Tara, need to read the book. I was a fan. Oh, there was an Illumicrate edition. Yeah, very pretty. Kirsten was waiting to see where this one would land. Love it as well. Yeah, this was definitely good. Is A Lady for a Duke sexy and steam heavy? Oh, Lady for a Duke. It not heavy. No, there are a couple of more explicit scenes later in the book, but it's like a 400-page book and there's only a couple late in the book. So I would not call it heavy on the steam. So, yeah, it is there though. Tara sees the sequel everywhere. I know I have it. I need to read it. I really want to. Um, this one's on my TBR. It sounds really good. Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm excited to read the second one because I really loved this a lot. It totally worked for me. I loved their relationship together. I know some people didn't like it because it's got kind of this prickly heroine who's kind of a bitch sometimes, but I didn't care. I like sometimes I really like those kinds of heroines, and it like by the end it worked for me, and like the reasons for her backstory worked for me. Again, your mileage may vary. Okay, and lastly, we're gonna get to my number one favorite romance that I read in 2022, and another one that I really think deserves more love and attention, and that is A Caribbean Heiress in Paris by Adriana Herrera. This was so good. This was like a perfect book for me. And I am generally really excited that we're seeing more diversity in historical romances. That is really exciting. But also, I just loved this so much. It was fun and funny and, like sexy where it needed to be. And I was into the relationship between the couple. They had good banter. And it also, I think, did a good job of handling the fact that it is a historical romance centering people of color. I thought it was fantastically thoughtfully done. It's set in, I think, the late 1800s, so like um Belle Epoque, is it Bella? It might not be Belle Epoque. It's set around like a World's Fair that happened in Paris, and the heroine is an heiress from the Caribbean. She's Afro-Latina, and she has a rum company and is going to exhibit her rum at the World Fair, World Exposition in Paris. And while there, she meets a Scottish man who makes a Scotch whiskey, and they fall in love. And it was just really, really good and fun and wonderful. And one thing that I like about this, which I've interviewed Adriana Herrera before a couple times. She's amazing, and you can find those interviews on Chapter 3 Podcast, which is the podcast I co-host with Izzy from Happy for Now for my romance episodes, and Leanna from Leanna's Library for my fantasy and sci-fi episodes. But one thing she talked about was that it was really important to her to have a hero, if the hero was going to be white, which he is in this case, that the heroine wasn't going to have to teach him things, that he was going to already know some things and be a good ally, and like have some history of having learned from people of color in his life already. And that is the case. And I won't talk specifically with spoilers and stuff of how, but that's definitely the case, and I absolutely loved this, and I'm so excited for the next book in the series, which we're getting, I think, in May, and that one's a sapphic romance. So each book is following one of these friends who all went on this trip together, and the second book is following a woman who is a painter and is destined for a loveless, and she's a lesbian, and she's destined for a loveless marriage, but makes a deal with I think like a duchess or something while she's in France, and I think it's going to be delightful, so I'm very excited about it. So yeah, this was my favorite romance of the year, and I would love to see more people pick it up because it's really good. Let's see. This was on the best of the year list for Fated Mates podcast too. Oh, good. I think it deserves it. It was really good. Tara really wants to read it. Melanie is a Caribbean single mom in Massachusetts. I'm embarrassed I haven't read this yet. Love the rep though. Yeah, it's highly recommend. It's great. And Adriana Herrera is Dominican. So she always writes Dominican characters in a lot of her books. So I think it's fabulous. Pat really enjoyed reading the book. Looking forward to seeing more from the author. Yay. Yeah, go pick it up. It's awesome. So there you go. Those are my 17 favorite romances that I read in 2022. There were a lot of really, really good ones, and I hope you go check them out. They're all linked in the comments down below. And if you want to comment, let me know in the comment section what was your favorite romance of the year, or romances. Like, what were the things that really stuck out to you? These were my faves. They may not be the same as everybody else's list, but I love them a lot. Thank you all so much for coming and hanging out with me, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. I'll see you next time. Bye.